So something that's been on my mind is this whole term of like passive income. It's kind of like financial freedom, right? Like people use financial freedom or they use time freedom, and how they define it is fitting a narrative that just doesn't exist. And I think it's important to clear these things up. So I kind of have a rant in terms of like passive income. I can talk about financial freedom, time freedom another time, but I think that really when you think about passive, it's a complete myth. It's a farce. And so many people, I think that they're out there looking to get rich for doing nothing, right? They want to make a lot of money with the least amount of effort. How do I do the least and get the most? And it's something that is going to be detrimental or diminishing to not only their perspective, but I think other people out in the world that, you have some of these people on social media promoting it to create sales for programs and things like that. And, the reality of it is, though, I want you all to understand the perspective, right? And the perspective should shift. And the reason I'm saying that is because, listen, I want you to think of someone that's been massively successful, right? Whether it's a business, or I want you to think of a relationship, or I want you to think of someone from a fitness perspective that they have a massive amount of success, or how you would define success. My question to you is, do you think that they achieve that by being active or inactive? You see, it's actually impossible to have a high level, a world-class level of success in being inactive. And I think everyone would agree to that. Most of us use words in context and we don't realize the context in which we're using those words. And we have to remember words have power. They have power to our subconscious mind. They have power out in the world, right? So if you look at passive and you define passive based on Webster's dictionary, the definition of passive is inactive, right? So how can you create an income if you're inactive at something? You can take a look at anyone that is generating income. If income is coming into you and that income is plateaued or it's growing, there is activity that's supporting that level of income at some level. An example can also be fitness. Who do you know that has achieved a high level of fitness? They've been in shape and they've been inactive in doing it. It's actually impossible to maintain a high level of fitness if you're inactive. And so what makes us think that we can achieve a high level of success without putting any effort into something and do it passively? That's hoping. I remember old saying, my dad threw a $100 bill down on the ground one time and looked at me and he said, I want you to hope that into your pocket. Go ahead and hope the $100 bill into your pocket. And I didn't know what he meant. I looked at him like he was crazy. And he said, go ahead and grab it. He said, getting the $100 doesn't just happen. There has to be an activity that takes place. There has to be a level of effort somewhere that takes place. Any great relationship is going to take effort. You can't have a great relationship if it's an inactive relationship, right? And so I think that the distinction that I really want to make to everyone is this whole concept of using passive income as a lure for people that are entrepreneurs today. I just watched a segment with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was talking about how the last decade has created these entrepreneurs that really aren't entrepreneurs, right? And he said the next decade it's going to be interesting to see who can survive it, because there's a lot of pretenders out there, and you have to kind of peel back the onion. Is you have to be willing to get in the grind and be active if you're going to be a true entrepreneur, and if you're going to achieve a high level of success or even a world-class level of success. And so I think for everyone that's listening, my encouragement or my challenge to you is your focus, right? Where your focus goes, energy flows. We've heard this over and over and over again. And I think that the most important thing is to understand the distinction between passive and the strategy that we could call leverage, right? So I'm agreeing that the strategy of using leverage in your life is a very smart strategy that most every successful person uses and they start mastering, right? However, there is nothing passive about leverage. There's nothing passive about the strategy of leverage, right? And so, it kind of goes in line with this multiple streams of income. Is you can create more streams of income if you're able to leverage your money into an environment where there is activity taking place, right? Or you can leverage yourself by using other people's money or other people's energy and effort or other people's collaboration, right? Other people's brains. I'd love to do a segment just on collaboration because I believe collaboration is currency today, right? It's more valuable than money, as money is a commodity. You can go out and find it. But when you use collaboration or other people's brains and other people's experience, you have real wisdom that money can't buy. You know, being able to leverage yourself to tap into other people's networks. All of those are strategies to leverage yourself to play the game smart, not just hard. However, in order to get to a level to where you can leverage at the most efficient level or the most effective level possible, you have to have a level of focus to where you put everything into it to be world class, right? And we've all heard the saying, you know, if you chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. Anyone that I've ever seen, that I've ever modeled, that's had a massive amount of world-class success, financial success, they have not done it inactive. They haven't done passive. They've literally done it by being all in on something. A mentor of mine told me a long time ago, you got to go to seed on something. Have you ever gone to seed on anything in your life? And, you know, that just resonated with me because I started reflecting back, thinking to myself, when I played basketball, I gave it a ton of effort. Like, my effort was huge. And the reality of it is, in reflection, looking back in my high school years and college years, I could have done more. I could have gone and done more. I had more inside of me. And I want you to think of some of the most successful people in the world today. You have Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. This whole concept of, you know, of passive income, or any of those individuals inactive today, right? A lot of people think, well, you know, I'm going to retire and create this passive income or financial freedom. I want you to think about this. Those individuals, they are in retirement in their business, right? I mean, think about it. You won't find them doing anything passive. All of them are super active within their current focus and their current business. Now, they're all leveraged. They've all mastered the strategy of using other people's money and other people's energy and effort as they're developing enterprises, right? However, none of them started their business because they were looking for passive income or financial freedom, right? I know it sounds seductive, but the reality of it is that passive income is one of the reasons so few people have wealth that they want. So rethink your goal and focus in on what it is that you want to achieve, right? Get excited about pushing the envelope and getting momentum started in your life. Let me give you an example of what I mean by passive in closing, and that is this, is that I want you to think about a time that you've been to a playground. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about, or maybe when you were a kid, you can remember going out to the playground and getting on a merry-go-round. And if you remember when you went to the playground and you jumped up on the merry-go-round and you yelled for someone to start pushing it, and there's a bunch of kids on there, it just takes a ton of effort to get that merry-go-round started. Does that make sense? Like, think about how much effort it takes to get that thing started. But as you start getting momentum and it starts moving around and it starts going faster and faster, then once you have it going, it just takes a little bit of effort to keep it going, right? The occasional swoop of your hand can keep the momentum going. It doesn't require as much effort, but it requires an enormous amount of effort in the beginning to get it going. So I want you to think about this. You could never get the merry-go-round going if you're going to be passive. You couldn't expect the merry-go-round to even keep going if you're going to be passive, because you've got to keep taking action on it. So if you ever decide to completely stop pushing the merry-go-round around, it will stop. I'll give you an example. In our business, I see people that they hit a plateau or they hit their goals, their financial goals in their business, and they stop, right? And they think it's just going to keep going. The reality of it is that it won't keep going, right? It has to stay in motion, and it takes activity to keep anything in motion. So the distinction that I just want everyone to make is that passive anything, I believe, is a bad goal. You know, it requires us to fall into a trap of thinking that by doing nothing we can get what we want. And I just don't believe that. And I believe that that leads to misery at the end of the day. I think that, it's the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The key to happiness is a worthwhile goal, dream, or opportunity. It's the pursuit of it, right? So once you achieve a goal, you have to you got to keep pursuing more. And so I think that if you guys would just kind of focus in on what you're going to be active with, and then think about the opportunity to create leverage in your life. And leverage is about not only being able to have success off of your efforts, but finding a platform where you can also, leverage other people's energy and efforts, right? You can also leverage other people's networks. Like, you see it in social media today where, people piggyback in on other people's networks or audience to deliver a message or to create sales. Like, that's smart business. And so really remember that leverage is a strategy. Leverage is smart, but being passive isn't smart at any level. What you can expect by being passive is you can expect a letdown. You can expect something to stop. You can expect a diminishing return. And so hopefully that gives you perspective on passive. It is a myth, but be active, right? Be engaged. And so what I would just re-encourage you all to do is focus on the one thing that lights you up, that makes you passionate. Stay at it. And, I'd love to hear your reviews around this. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in. Again, guys, appreciate you all. And remember, you don't have to become someone else to be successful. Just become more of who you are. You are awesome. Love you guys. And so don't be inactive with anything. Don't ever be passive. And dream big, be bold. Mighty forces will come to your aid. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.